I know you talk a lot about the intent of an audience, right? So if you maybe can tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, the longer we've got into this journey, I think the first year of this was trying to work out how do we collect content feedback, like what are the mechanisms that we use, and where does it sit within what we do in B2B marketing at the moment. And buyer behavior's changed so much as well in recent times, like there's a shift away from things like gated content, more ungated stuff, giving away more stuff for free, and okay, how effective is all of that work? And we're still doing everything in stages of the user journey, like top of funnel, I'm trying to find out about a topic or a subject, I'm trying to self-educate, right down to product, solution, bottom of funnel stuff. So we've been trying to work out, okay, where do we get rocky in that mix and how do we deliver on intent? And I think you can look at intent in two different ways. One is essentially keyword intent. Depending on the type of keyword you're doing, you generally write a piece of content that's matched to it. So if it's top of funnel, like what is, I don't know, ABM marketing, you're trying to deliver on the intent of that. You're trying to solve that question. Okay, how does that align with that? And there's the other side of it, which is the title of the content, whether if you've come in via a different channel that's not search, for example, like what is the intent of this thing? Like I'll report into X and that. So like, what are you trying to deliver against that audience and how effective are you trying to do it? So that's kind of the big thing that we've really been focusing on, is essentially closing that feedback loop up. So I've engaged with it, I've read it, have I delivered on the promise that I set out to the audience? And the simplest way that we do that is we collect a content rating. So really quick, like, did we do our job? Yes or no? Cool, we'll go and do that. You've all of a sudden got this clear feedback loop against different stages of the funnel, different stages of intent that you've got from your audience. And you can go, okay, I think I've effectively done that. And it's a really quick way of working out where are the gaps? What are you missing? And obviously the other mechanisms we have there is, we recommend people collect audience insight as well. So you can start to figure out different segments. Who are you influencing? Who are you not influencing? And also the open text feedback box, which is a big thing that's been promoted by people like Refine Labs in terms of attribution modeling. We're saying do the same in content, because it all of a sudden gives you a huge amount of data you just weren't expecting, where it could be, I don't know, this isn't what I was expecting, or you didn't include enough references, or this didn't seem credible enough, or whatever. And all of a sudden you've got, okay, I've got clear, shortened cycles to understand how effective my content is, instead of waiting 3 months or 4 months looking at an analytics data dashboard and then going, I think it worked, or I'm not too sure. You've now got, actually, sometimes in weeks you could be like, I really need to adjust this, or I need to optimize this, or I've got a particular audience that is starting to emerge as a key trend. So yeah, there's kind of a different layers of understanding what intent looks like depending on the audience and the way they got there, but there's different ways of collecting that feedback as well.
Sure. You mentioned gaps there as well. Like, what are some of the most interesting gaps you've seen your clients surfacing?
B2B is great for jumping straight to solution, bottom of funnel.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Buy now, buy the thing, which is interesting. That tends to be some of the biggest bits of feedback that we get, is we haven't delivered on the intent of the audience. Like I've got one really, really good example from one user who they did a new launch of a new product and solution, but they actually set up the expectation of the content as like, we're revolutionizing how to do this. I can't go into too much detail as I'll reveal who they are, but we're revolutionizing this part of the industry with our new way of doing things and our new theory and approach. So they set up a very high level expectation and theory behind it, and you land on there and they're just like, it was kind of like a chest beating exercise. We're the best at this, we're changing the world. And within 48 hours, they had about 10 or 15 bits of feedback on that content, because they drove a huge amount of traffic there straight away. And people were like, I have no idea what you're on about. Like, you haven't told me what the solution actually is. Like, you've kind of done this big exercise of creating all this drama and intrigue. You haven't actually told me what you're trying to, how do you deliver on that expectation? Which was really interesting. And I kind of got in touch with their CMO and I was like, you need to go in there. And actually, in this example, you do need to actually start delivering on what you said you were going to do. How are you changing this part of the industry? Like, have you got some videos? Have you got some other content which you can at least link to or provide a clear next stage of the customer journey? So there's all examples of kind of gaps that you get. And it is the most common thing is we're always trying to sell too quick is probably the biggest example, but nice little example there of how one user just completely misread the audience with what they set out to do.
That's powerful as well, though, right? Because if you're the one in charge of content, product launch is a perfect example where everyone's super excited. Of course, we want to immediately talk to the product, and you're often that lone voice as the content marketer saying, "Cool, but there's still 4 other buyer jobs we also need to address here for this thing that no one's seen before. Let's do some of that as well." So if you've got actual feedback within 48 hours saying, "Where's the rest of my buyer journey, please?" Not that everyone ever says like that.
That's exactly what they ask. But yeah, it's kind of those ones. I feel we've been on the side of that as well, where you're inside the organisation and you're having those debates like, what does this need to look like? And there's probably multiple stakeholders going into that piece of content and trying to deliver it, and there's different voices of opinion around the room. And you have to get internal feedback to validate and get things out there, but equally, you've also got this really quick external like feedback loop going, "Hey, we didn't get it, we didn't understand it." And that was kind of like perhaps answering some people's internal arguments, and perhaps the others are not so happy with that. But equally, it was a clear point of clarity. We need to go and adjust now. Like the message is wrong. We need to go and adjust and make a change. So that's, again, the fascinating thing with that is that could have been a content campaign that could have lasted for months and they'd have had no idea if it worked or not. Because our metric at B2B is leads. Everything is leads. That's all I care about. The reality is you're trying to introduce a new content that's going to take time, energy, awareness. You've got to nail that message over and over again. And if on day one you're not getting it right, that's a real problem. And you're 3 months later going, where are all those leads coming? I thought they would have come in by now. We said we were going to change the market. Whereas you've now got that, like, okay, let's switch it up. We're not landing with. So yeah, fascinating stuff.
That's the power to be a lot more iterative in content than maybe you've been able to before, right? Unless you're going to have a customer panel to look at all your content pieces before they go out. We just didn't have that mechanism.
Yeah. And you mentioned customer panel. I have heard of some audiences, some companies who do like kind of pre-releases with their content as well, which like I would actively encourage if you've got a way of doing that, especially if you're doing something really big. But equally, you need that real-time loop as well, because the audience is changing, the market's changing, priorities are changing. There could be huge macro environmental things where it's like, oh, budget's been wiped out. Like, is, I don't know, a piece of personalization software the solution? Probably not. You've got to change the way you're talking to the audience and not just hope that the campaign, hope it lands.
Yeah.
Big changes in the world, hope it lands. It's like, you can't kind of just settle on it. So, yeah.